The room was quiet, except for the soft hum of the ship's systems and the occasional distant pop of metal adjusting to space's endless cold. Jeffrey had just settled onto the edge of the bed, rubbing his temples. Another long day. Earth seemed 1,000,000 miles away, and technically it was. Behind him, the door slid open with a faint hiss. "Jeffrey." The voice was soft, softer than usual. He turned, eyebrows raising slightly when he saw her standing there. Jennifer. Her silhouette was delicate against the hallway's low light, her long silver hair catching a shimmer that was almost unearthly. She wasn't like any human woman he'd met, graceful, thoughtful, curious. But right now, she looked small, uncertain. "Hey," he said gently, sitting up straighter. "You okay?" Jennifer took a slow step inside, then another, her arms crossed over her chest. Not defensive, more like someone holding themselves together. Her bare feet made no sound on the smooth metal floor. Her pale blue eyes were wide, almost glowing faintly. I don't want to be alone tonight." Jeffrey blinked. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, her fingers clenched briefly, then relaxed. "I've never asked for something like this before. On my planet, we don't sleep next to others unless—" She trailed off, clearly wrestling with the words. "But I've been feeling something strange ever since I met you." He didn't speak right away. He just watched her. She looked so different from when they first met, so serious, so curious, even cold at times. But now she seemed vulnerable, like someone trying to understand emotions she hadn't been built for. "I won't touch you," she added quickly. "I promise. I just want to lie next to you, just for tonight. Nothing more." Jeffrey nodded slowly. "Okay, if it helps, I don't mind." Jennifer's shoulders relaxed the tiniest bit. She stepped forward again quietly, her gaze searching his face for any sign of hesitation. There wasn't any, just a calm, tired acceptance. Maybe curiosity, too. He moved over, making space on the bed. It wasn't large, but there was room if they stayed still. When she sat beside him, she did so cautiously, as if afraid she might break something invisible between them. Her skin gave off a faint warmth, almost like a low, pulsing heat. They lay down. At first, she kept a precise distance, about a foot of space between them. She lay on her side, back to him, hands folded neatly beneath her chin. The glow of the control panel across the room cast soft shadows across her face. She looked peaceful, still a little tense, but quieter now. Jeffrey lay on his back, staring up at the ceiling. He could feel her presence, not just in the physical way, though the warmth of her body definitely radiated toward him, but in a strange emotional sense. It was like she was thinking loudly, even though she didn't speak. Minutes passed. Neither of them said anything. Then, gently, almost imperceptibly, she moved. An inch. Then another. Jeffrey noticed, but he didn't react. He wasn't sure what to do. Was this part of her species' custom? Was she getting cold? Was she aware she was moving? By the 5th inch, he could feel her body heat more clearly. Still, she didn't touch him. Then she whispered, "Is it strange that I want this?" He turned his head slightly, looking at her in the dim light. Number not strange. Jennifer stared at the ceiling for a moment. "Where I come from, we're never alone. Our thoughts are always linked. But since I came here, it's been quiet, lonely." Jeffrey's voice was low, steady. "Humans get lonely too." She nodded slowly. I understand you more than I did before. Your need for warmth, connection. It's not so different." He didn't know what to say to that, so he just let the silence speak for him. Then her voice dropped, barely audible. "You smell calming." Jeffrey chuckled under his breath. "Thanks, I guess." Jennifer smiled slightly. "It's hard to explain. It's not the scent itself. It's the feeling it gives me." Another pause. Then she moved again. This time there was no distance left. Her shoulder brushed his arm, lightly, tentative. Jeffrey turned his head again, eyes meeting hers. She looked nervous. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I said I wouldn't." "It's okay," he said softly. For a second, neither of them moved. Their faces were close now. Her hair had fallen forward, some of it brushing against his cheek. The warmth of her body was unmistakable now. She was trembling, just a little. "I didn't know I could feel like this," she said. Jeffrey studied her for a long moment. Then he reached up slowly and brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Like what?" "Curious," she whispered. "Drawn. Afraid. But not of you. Of how much I want to be near you." He didn't answer. He didn't need to. They lay like that, side by side, breathing in rhythm. Her hand found his under the blanket. She didn't grab it, just touched it softly, letting it rest there. She closed her eyes. "Thank you for not pushing me away." "I wouldn't," he said. Jennifer smiled, just barely. Then she exhaled a long, soft breath, and for the first time since arriving on Earth, she fell asleep next to someone who made the loneliness feel a little less permanent. The hum of the ship was like a lullaby, low and constant, wrapping the room in a false sense of timelessness. Hours must have passed, though Jeffrey wasn't sure how many. He'd drifted off at some point, just barely, in that half-sleep state where dreams and reality tangled together. And then he felt it. Movement. Not abrupt, not jarring. Just the subtle weight of a body pressing a little closer. A breath brushing against his arm. Then another. He blinked, his eyes open, barely turning his head. Jennifer had moved again. Now she was right beside him. Her face was close, closer than before. So close he could see the way her lashes fluttered softly with each breath. One arm was draped across his chest, not tightly, but like it had ended up there by accident. Or maybe it hadn't. She stirred. Eyes opened. Their gazes met. For a moment, neither of them spoke. "Then," she whispered, voice soft like wind through leaves. "I moved." Jeffrey nodded slightly, voice low. "Yeah, I noticed." "I didn't mean to," she said, but there was no panic in her voice, just honesty. But I felt cold, and not just my body. I don't know how to explain it. You don't have to. Jennifer shifted slightly, just enough so that her forehead rested against his shoulder. Her skin was warm, but her energy was something more, like gentle static, alive and pulsing with something she hadn't quite shared yet. "I thought we could just lie beside each other," she said, "but being near you feels natural, like I've done it before, in a dream." Jeffrey's heart thudded a little harder. She looked up at him again, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "Your heart's racing," he swallowed. "That's not surprising." "I like the sound of it," she murmured. "It comforts me. May I?" She hesitated, then slowly moved closer, resting her head directly over his chest, listening. Her fingers played absently at the fabric of his shirt, tracing the lines like a map she was trying to learn by heart. "I didn't know I could feel this," she whispered. "This warmth, this ache." Jeffrey breathed slowly, trying to steady himself, trying not to get lost in her voice. Jennifer lifted her head just slightly, her lips a breath away from his. "Do humans always feel this much, when they're close to someone?" "Not always," he replied, "but when it's real, yeah." Her hand slid up his chest to his neck, then to his cheek where it stayed. Her touch was soft, careful, like she was afraid he might disappear if she pressed too hard. "I don't want to be careful anymore," she said, voice shaking. "I want to know what this is." Jeffrey didn't move. He waited. Then she leaned in and kissed him. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't fiery. It was slow, intentional, like she was exploring the language of it, letting it speak to something inside her that didn't exist before. Her lips moved over his, gently, almost reverently. He kissed her back. Time dissolved. Fingers tangled in hair. Hands rested on backs, pulling gently closer. Breaths deepened. Mouths found rhythm. Her warmth was everywhere now, wrapped around him, inside him. She kissed him again and again and again, with more curiosity, more emotion, more need. She pulled back for a second, catching her breath. I didn't know a kiss could make my whole body light up. It's not just your body, Jeffrey said softly. It's whatever this is, between us. Jennifer gave him a look that was half wonder, half confusion. I've never been connected to someone like this. Not physically, not emotionally. You're not like us, but something in me is responding to you. More than logic, more than instinct. You're not alone anymore, he said. Her eyes watered just slightly. Say that again. You're not alone. She exhaled, and it sounded like relief. They didn't stop kissing. The space between them disappeared completely, limbs tangled, sheets rustled. The room, quiet and dim before, became filled with soft sounds of laughter, breath, whispered names. Her hands held his face like it was something sacred. His fingers explored her skin, curious but respectful. It was a night neither of them had expected, but neither of them resisted it. They fell asleep wrapped around each other, warm, safe, alive. For the first time in her life, Jennifer didn't feel like a visitor in someone else's world. She felt home. Warm light filtered through the ship's synthetic window panels, casting a soft golden hue across the room. It was still quiet, the kind of quiet that only comes after something meaningful. Jeffrey stirred first. His eyes opened slowly, blinking against the light, his body still heavy with sleep. For a second, he wasn't sure where he was. Then he felt it. Her. Jennifer was curled against him, her arm draped lazily across his waist, her cheek resting against his chest. Her breathing was slow and peaceful, almost in sync with his. Her silver hair spilled over the sheets like liquid starlight, shimmering faintly even in the soft light of morning. He smiled to himself, one hand gently tracing the line of her shoulder. She shifted. Her eyes opened slowly, pupils adjusting. She blinked up at him, then gave a small, sleepy smile. "Hi," she said softly. "Hey," he replied, voice still husky from sleep. For a moment, neither of them said anything else. They just looked at each other, letting the silence speak. Jennifer's fingers tightened slightly where they rested on his stomach. "That happened," she whispered, as if saying it out loud would make it more real. Jeffrey nodded. "Yeah, it did." She pulled back just a little, resting on her elbow to see him better. Her expression wasn't uncertain. It wasn't anxious. If anything, she looked thoughtful, like she was trying to understand what this new feeling inside her meant. "I didn't think I would ever..." She paused, struggling to find the right word. "Choose someone like this. Not out of logic, but out of feeling." He reached up, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You regret it?" She shook her head quickly. "Number never." Her voice grew quieter. "I'm just surprised at how much I needed you, and how much I still do." Jeffrey let out a soft breath. "Me too." Jennifer's eyes searched his face, her fingers absent-mindedly tracing circles on his skin. "When I touched you last night, when I kissed you, it felt like something inside me opened, something I didn't know was locked away." He reached for her hand and held it gently. "Whatever this is, we don't have to define it yet. We just follow it." She nodded slowly. "I like the way you think." There was a pause, comfortable, not awkward. Then she leaned in and kissed him again, just once, software, lingering. When she pulled back, there was a sparkle in her eyes. "I've kissed you a lot now," she said, almost teasing. Jeffrey chuckled. "Yeah, I noticed. I'm not complaining." Jennifer smiled, resting her head back on his chest. "Your heart isn't racing this time." "No," he said, holding her a little closer. "It's calm, like it knows this is where it's supposed to be." She closed her eyes again, just listening to the steady rhythm beneath her ear. "I never thought I'd be this close to someone from your world. And I never thought I'd fall for someone from another one," Jeffrey said, half laughing at the surreal truth of it. but neither of them needed to make sense of it. The warmth between them wasn't something that needed logic or explanation. It just was. Jennifer shifted again, moving so their foreheads touched, her voice barely above a whisper. "Will you stay close to me? For a while?" "As long as you want. Forever might be a while." Jeffrey smiled, eyes soft. "Forever sounds good." And there, in the quiet warmth of a ship drifting through space, two souls from different worlds lay side by side, not as alien and human, not as scientist and visitor, but simply as two people who had found something rare and unexpected, something real. Days passed, but something about the night they spent together never really faded. It lingered in the way Jennifer looked at Jeffrey when he entered the room. It echoed in the pauses of their conversations, those quiet moments where a look, a half-smile, or a simple touch meant more than words ever could. The connection they shared had deepened in ways neither of them could explain. Jeffrey noticed small changes in her. She was quieter, more thoughtful. Sometimes he'd find her staring at her hands, flexing her fingers slowly, as if feeling something unfamiliar beneath her skin. Other times she'd go off by herself, standing near the observation deck, her gaze fixed on the endless sprawl of stars. He didn't want to push, but the concern was growing. So when she came to him one evening, her expression unreadable and her steps a little slower than usual, he put down what he was doing and gave her his full attention. "Jennifer?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked toward him, sat beside him on the edge of the bed, and reached for his hand. Her fingers were warm, a little trembling. "I need to tell you something," she said softly. Jeffrey's heart skipped. "Okay," he said gently. "What is it?" Jennifer looked down at their intertwined hands. "I've been feeling strange, not sick, not in pain, just different. My body feels like it's changing, growing, like it's preparing for something." He stayed quiet, sensing she needed to say it in her own time. Her next words came with a quiet breath. "I ran some tests on myself. Earlier today, I used the medical-based scanner to make sure I wasn't ill." She paused. "I'm not sick," she continued, lifting her eyes to his. They shimmered. "I'm pregnant." The silence that followed wasn't shock. It was more like the air had paused around them, waiting to catch up to the meaning of her words. Jeffrey blinked. You're sure?" She nodded once. "Completely. It's early, but there's life inside me. A new kind of life. Not fully of your world and not fully of mine. Something in between." His breath caught in his chest. "A child. Our child," she said softly, squeezing his hand. "I didn't think it was possible. Our biology shouldn't even be compatible, but something happened. Something extraordinary." He stared at her, processing. Then he reached out and cupped her cheek with his free hand. "How do you feel?" She leaned into his touch. "Surprisingly calm, at peace. I should be afraid, but I'm not." "Neither am I," he said, and he meant it. Then he smiled, soft and full of something warm and steady. "Jennifer, this is amazing." Tears welled in her eyes, but they didn't fall. "You're not upset?" "No," he said, pulling her into his arms. "How could I be? You just told me we created something together, something alive, something that belongs to both of us." She buried her face in his shoulder, and for a long while they just held each other. No more questions, no more doubts. Just the slow, steady rhythm of two people beginning something new. When she finally pulled back, her hands rested protectively on her stomach. "I don't know what the child will be like," she said. "They might not look like either of us, or they might be something entirely new. We'll figure it out," he said. She nodded, smiling through misty eyes. "They'll be loved. That much I know." Jeffrey kissed her forehead. "They'll have a wild story to hear one day." Jennifer laughed, a soft, melodic sound that filled the room like sunlight. "Imagine telling them, your mother came from the stars and your father was a tired human just trying to drink his coffee in peace." "Hey, I wasn't that tired," he joked. You were exhausted, she teased, nudging him playfully. They laughed together, really laughed, until they both fell back onto the bed lying side by side, hands still linked. And in that moment, with nothing but the soft hum of the ship around them and the glow of stars outside the window, they knew their lives had changed forever, but it didn't feel scary anymore. It felt right. Months passed. The ship eventually returned to Earth. Jennifer was granted permanent status on the planet, not as a visitor, not as a subject of study, but as someone who had chosen to make a life there. With Jeffrey by her side, she settled into a small home near the coast, surrounded by nature and starlit skies. Her pregnancy progressed with a few surprises: strange cravings, glowing skin, the occasional floating object when she sneezed. But everything stayed healthy. Strong. One night, long after the world had gone quiet, Jeffrey stood by the window, holding her close as waves crashed softly against the shore. "Do you think they'll have your eyes?" he asked, resting his hand on her growing belly. Jennifer smiled. "Maybe. Or yours. Or something entirely different." "I hope they get your curiosity," he said, "and your strength." She looked up at him, eyes full of love. "And I hope they get your heart." He kissed her, slowly, deeply, not with urgency, but with the full weight of everything they'd been through. The loneliness, the wonder, the miracle of finding each other. When the baby arrived, bright-eyed, glowing slightly, and beautiful beyond words, it wasn't the beginning of something strange. It was the beginning of a family. And no matter how far she had come from the stars, Jennifer never looked back. Because her home wasn't a planet. It was a heartbeat, right beside hers, forever.